Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my solo Nex guide. This is a guide featuring how I personally use melee at this boss. However, this is not going to be a fully comprehensive guide, but more of tips and tricks to help you use this more or less forgotten method of Nex soloing. Enjoy! Alrighty, so I'm going to do a rundown real quick on the gear that I'm using. I am just using Custom Fit Trim Masterwork, Kopesh ZGS Masterwork Spear. Use any combination of the weapons that you have, or if you have all of them, even better. Reaper Necklace is there just to help out with accuracy issues at the boss, because Nex still has a very high defense level, and Armor Book is there because it's better to spam out the hits that it offers, mainly because of all the soft caps with the minions and Zeros phase and all the other phases. Grimoire is just not really going to do much to aid you there, and plus Armor Book is right now, I think, almost a fifth of the cost of Grim, so it can make even more money. Blue Blubbers and Sailfish to combo with them is more than enough food for the fight. However, if you're not 100% confident in yourself using melee here, it's your first time going and you've been doing a lot of range, you want to spice it up with a melee solo, then you can bring higher healing food, just sub it out for whatever you want, and do what works for you. Smoke phase is a pretty straightforward phase when it comes to the rotation that I use. I just huck down a Vuln Bomb and Anticipate just before Nex becomes attackable, ideally 3 ticks before, but it honestly doesn't matter a whole lot. And then you just barge, Quake, bleed the Assault, and destroy. And the HP should be right at 160k when you're done at that. However, if you don't get there, you can just use Decimate, Sever, Clave, whatever you need to get the rest of the HP down and head on over to Fumus. The rotation for the minions is pretty much the same. You just use Dismember with a lunging swap and use basic abilities to kill the minion. For Shadow Phase, the rotation I generally try and follow is to Barge and Bleed Destroy. I use Barge to phase into Shadow Phase, and then Destroy is my first ability. Then right-click Walk Under as I'm hitting Slaughter with the Spear, and then use basic abilities to build Adrenaline back up for preparation of Blood Phase. If for some reason this goes on a bit longer, you can either swap to a Scythe if you have one, or you can do a step in and out one ability method, but honestly, with TMW, you can just tank it and kill the phase before you're ever really going to take a whole lot of damage. Again, the rotation for the minions is pretty much the same. You bleed Dismember with a lunging swap, and use basic abilities to kill the minion. Blood Phase, in my opinion, is where the melee solo really comes alive and becomes pretty fun. Zerking Blood Phase is the method that I use, and I tag Nex and instantly try and go into a Zerk, use Anticipate and Freedom to build up, and usually the timing will work out to where you can barge in and not heal Nex when she's doing her animation. And I bleed Assault, and then Hurricane, and try to same tick Bladed Dive out with the Hurricane, and the Bled Assault should end up killing Nex. If not, then you can just run back, smack another basic or two, and the phase will be over with. Again, the rotation for the minions is pretty much the same. You bleed Dismember with a lunging swap, and use basic abilities to kill the minion. Ice Phase is probably the trickiest phase in the entire fight, so I try and do the same exact movement and ability rotation each time I do a solo here. What I do is I tag Nex with any ability, it can be any basic or anything, and then walk under as soon as she is attackable with Slaughter, cleave and run out, and then click back in. So technically your character is still on the 3rd tile away, but you're running back into the boss as Contain This goes out. So you don't get hit by it, but it allows you to walk back into melee distance of Nex and keep attacking. If you don't time this right, the ice spikes that come out of the floor and track to your position are a solid object. You cannot walk over them, you cannot pass through them, and your character will end up walking around and running around the entire contain, and it's pretty janky, I'm not gonna lie. But if you do the setup that you see on screen with the movement in and out, it takes a while to get used to. It is definitely not something that you're going to be nailing your first time, but It's the best method I have found so far for Ice Phase to work out properly. And if you can time it well enough and you get lucky enough with a next melee distancing you as you're killing Cruar, you can do, if you do enough damage to Nex and Phaser, you can Bladed Dive Surge same tick over to Glacies and then use Target Cycle to target the minion while inside of an ice prison. I didn't get that in this kill. It's pretty rare for me to get that. I haven't figured out quite a solid enough rotation yet for that, but I may post a little bonus clip later on or something like that to show off how the quote-unquote perfect Ice Phase. Again, the rotation for the minions is pretty much the same. You bleed Dismember with a lunging swap and use basic abilities to kill the minion. The rotation used for Zero's Phase is the same regardless of whether you get Magic Prayer or Deflect Melee Prayer, however the main difference is when you start the ZGS spec. For Magic Prayer, it's as soon as you can and deal out all the damage, prioritize Dismember with lunging, Slaughter with a walk, and Blood Tendrils if you have the spear, even if you don't have the spear. Prioritize those bleeds and get them all stacked up, then use other abilities such as Assault, Destroy, Flurry, and it's basically about hit spam since you're pretty much capped to about 2,500 damage per hit. Sometimes you can crit, I think it's like a 31 or 3,200, but under Magic Prayer, just absolutely destroy the boss and she will fade into non-existence rather quickly. However, most of the time you're going to be under the quote-unquote normal prayer rotation, which is Soul Split, Melee Prayer, and then no prayer at all. And you just have to focus a bit more, and I start the ZGS spec usually after the Deflect Melee. Sometimes if I'm being lazy, I won't ZGS spec at all, or if I'm trying to play it safe because I was dumb in other phases and ate a bunch of food, then I will go ahead and probably not use ZGS spec because the hits that it has, when she protects melee reflecting onto you, can really screw up snagging reses and whatnot. So Zero's Phase, just be mindful of the melee prayer and use bleeds. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. I greatly appreciate the viewership, and hopefully I was able to teach you something in this guide. So let me know in the comments what I can work on in the future, or maybe another guide you would like to see, or something along those lines. And until then, have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon, nighttime, whatever it is, wherever you are. Peace.